What's going on, people? What's going on? I appreciate everybody sliding through. Tune into another episode of Boxing Matchups. It's your boy, Dwayne Freeman. What's going on, Yoda Wise Crust? What's going on with you? Appreciate you sliding through. What's going on, Josh Sanders? Appreciate you sliding through. My boy, Just Do, what's going on with you? Appreciate you sliding through. DP Rocker, what's going on? Yeah, so we're gonna get into these boxing matchups that happened last night. There was a lot of interesting fights last night. Couple of good fights, couple of fights not so good. Um, we've seen a couple of fights that should have won a different way, but the judges chose to go otherwise. I got the link pinned up in the chat. If y'all want to come through, it's open to anybody that want to come through. But I'm gonna start off with the first matchup that I watched last night, which was Hrgovic against Zhang. Now I've been hearing a lot of people talking about Hrgovic was the boogeyman at the heavyweight. Nobody wanted to fight him, and he came out said he'd been trying to get fights, and they kept saying it last night before the fight started that he tried to get 8 different opponents and everybody was pretty much ducking him or had reasons why they didn't want to fight him. And he went out there and he didn't look so good. This is only the second time that I actually seen him fight. My first analysis on when I first saw him fight was he's a big puncher, but he was slow. But last night, he looked even worse. I don't know if it was because of the layoff or because of the death of his father. I'm not sure what it was, but he didn't look good. He didn't look good at all. And from what I seen last night, he doesn't look like he's ready for those top tier guys at a heavyweight. Zhang was hitting him with big shots, and he was walking around the ring looking down at the mat. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know if he just wanted to quit. What's going on with Conor Loco? What's going on with you, man? Appreciate you coming through. I didn't know if he just wanted to quit or he wasn't into the fight. I don't know, but he was getting hit with big shots, and his gas tank was low. And Zhang actually, in my opinion, Zhang won that fight. They gave it to Hrgovic, and I don't believe he won that fight. It was like it was times where he would put the pressure on Zhang, and then he would just start bouncing around the ring and back off of him. And I didn't understand what was the reason of him backing off when he was putting the pressure on. He had Zhang covered up, and he was hitting Zhang with big shots, and he would just back off and start dancing around the ring. And then whenever Zhang hit him with a big shot, he'll go walk off. It was a couple of times he got hit with a big shot, and he pretty much just walked away from Zhang. And Zhang jumped on him and try to get him out of there. He dropped him early in I believe it was the first round. Zhang dropped him, and from that point on, it was like Hrgovic didn't want no parts of Zhang. I mean, he would throw a couple of shots here and there, but he really didn't want no parts of Zhang. Zhang was taking the fight to Hrgovic for the person that was supposed to be the boogeyman. Zhang was taking the fight to him, and like I said, I believe Zhang won that fight. It was a close fight because Zhang, both of those guys was gassed out. Both of those guys gassed out, and they gassed out early. I think it was like probably round 5 or round 6. You could tell both of those guys was gassed out, and I just don't. He said, "Fact, Zhang was Zhang the dude helmet." Oh yeah, Zhang was on the dude helmet, pressuring him the whole fight. Yeah, he was pressuring that damn near the whole fight. Yeah, I scored it. I scored it 7 rounds to 5 for Zhang, but I just don't see how they had Hrgovic winning that. What's going on, 817? Appreciate you coming through. I don't understand how they had Hrgovic winning that fight. That was clearly a fight, in my opinion, that Zhang won. He was the one that was pressuring the fight. He was landing the big shots. He was landing the more cleaner shots. So I don't see how they gave that fight to Herkovich. But then the next fight that I had watched was Brandon Lee. Now Brandon Lee was looking good in that fight. He looked real good in that fight. He was catching the guy with combinations. He was throwing some big shots, but it didn't look like the big shots was really hurting the guy that he was hitting him with. But he was looking good, but he got caught. I think it was the third round. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the third round. He got caught with a clean shot, and I thought it was over for Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee went to throw a jab, and dude caught him with a left hook, and Brandon Lee eyes rolled in the back of his head, and he hit the canvas hard. And I literally thought that the fight was over. And but he got up, and he bounced around and get his. He said Zhang wasn't busy enough to me. Boring ass fight. Yeah, I mean it was a boring fight, but if you look at the fight, Zhang was the one that was stalking Herkovich. What's going on, Flawless? What's going on, Combat 2 Bad? Appreciate y'all coming through. Zhang was the one that was stalking Herkovich. Herkovich would just throw combinations here and there, but Zhang was the one that was stalking Herkovich the whole fight. He was stalking him the whole fight. Like I said, he caught Zhang with a couple of big shots, but Zhang was landing the more cleaner and the more effective shots. But yeah, Brandon Lee, he got up off the canvas and he did the job that he was supposed to do. But I don't think Brandon Lee is ready for those guys at 140. He got nice boxing ability, but we saw that his chin is questionable because, like I said, he got hit with a clean shot and he went down hard. His chin is questionable, and he already has, I believe, like 20 fights already, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's like 20 some fights, and he's still fighting low level competition, and he got caught. He did clearly win that fight. I scored that 8 rounds. No, I think I scored it 9 rounds to 3. I think I scored that fight 9 rounds to 3. He clearly won that fight, but he's not ready for those guys at the top in the top of the 140 division. Regis Prograis, Gary Antoine, even Montana Love. I think Montana Love might have moved up to 147. If I'm not mistaken, I think he might have moved up to 147. But I think even Pedraga will give Brandon Lee some problems. Tio might be able to beat Brandon Lee at this point right now, from what I've seen. He might be able to beat Brandon Lee. It all depends on what Tio comes into the ring. What's going on, MP? What the fuck? Appreciate you coming through. Yeah, Brandon Lee, he needs some more work. He needs some more stiffer competition, because it seems like the guys that they putting him in there is easy fights for him. So last night was the first time that he really faced adversity, and he was able to overcome it. But if he's in there with somebody like a Gary Antoine or a Regis Prograis or Jose Ramirez, I don't think he's going to be able to overcome that adversity. I think they're going to end up finishing him off if they hit him with that shot that he got caught with last night. I think they'll finish him off. But then I want to see him in there. I want to see him in there with a Pedraga and see how he would do, because Pedraga, although I think he might be able to beat Pedraga, Pedraga is going to give him something that he hasn't seen before. Pedraga is a veteran. He's been in the boxing game for a while now, and Pedraga is going to give him different looks that I don't think Brandon Lee has ever seen before. So that will be a nice tune-up for Brandon Lee. And what's going on, Bruce Goes? Appreciate you coming through. But I believe that that's what Brandon Lee needs. He needs somebody that's going to test him, because he was looking like the fight was too easy to him, and he got caught with his guard down. And if the guy was I believe if the guy was a better fighter, I think he would have got Brandon Lee out of there, because Brandon Lee, when he got up, he was still on shaky legs, and you could tell he was still wobbly. But the guy was just swinging big shots, but it wasn't none of them landing. They wasn't calculated shots. He was just going in there trying to get the referee to stop the fight. But Brandon Lee was able to cover up and weather the storm. And then Brandon Lee pretty much just walked to the end of the. He just walked through until the end of the fight and won the fight easily. But the other fight that I saw was my boy Hector Garcia. And this is a Hector Garcia is a clear case of underestimating your opponent, because Hector Garcia is a fighter that was not ranked. He was a short notice replacement and got in there with Chris Colbert, and he put Chris Colbert on his ass and beat Chris Colbert easy. Then he got the fight last night, and he had all the pressure on his back. He was fighting to become the first 130-pound world champion for the Dominican Republic. And he came in there and he pretty much did the same thing he did with Chris Colbert. He won that fight easy. And he almost gave it up the last 3 rounds. He almost gave it up because he stopped doing what he was doing at the beginning of the fight. The fight all the way up until the 10th round, Hector Garcia was catching this guy with big shots and just moving. Every time, I can't remember the fighter name, but every time he would step in, Hector Garcia would catch him with a jab and then catch him with a combination, and then he would move. But he almost gave it up at the end. He stopped doing what he was doing, and his opponent started hitting Hector Garcia with a lot of big shots. It was one time, I believe, in the 12th round that I thought Hector Garcia was going to go down, but he didn't go down, and he won that fight 9 rounds to 3. It was clearly he won the first 9 rounds without any question. He won the first 9 rounds. He gave up the last 3 rounds. In my opinion, I gave the last 3 rounds to his opponent, but he was an unranked opponent, and he beat Chris Colbert, and then he won the WBA title last night. And this man is definitely somebody that people need to keep an eye on. And shout out to my man Just Do. Just Do let us know last week that he did an interview, and he pretty much said he won Shakur Stevenson. He won a unified the belts with Shakur Stevenson. He said he would love to have that fight, and that's a great fight. I believe Shakur Stevenson will beat him, but I mean, who knows? He went in there. Nobody had him beating Chris Colbert, and a lot of people didn't have him winning last night. But he proved a lot of people wrong both fights. He beat both those guys easy, and that will be a hell of a fight, and it will move Shakur Stevenson 1 belt closer to being undisputed, and I would love to see that fight. I believe Shakur Stevenson will want that fight, but we all know we got to see what Bob Arum is going to do, because Hector Garcia is a PBC fighter, and Chris Colbert is a top ranked. Shakur Stevenson is a top ranked fighter. So we're going to see what Bob Arum do, but I would love to see that fight, because that's a fight that he's Hector Garcia is not one of those guys that shine away from the opportunity of becoming an undisputed champion or becoming a major player in the 130-pound division. Like I said, he wasn't ranked 2 fights ago. 2 fights ago, this man was not ranked. And now all of a sudden he's the WBA champion, and he's going right at the next champion. He ain't say he wanted to fight a mandatory or anything like that. He said, I want to fight Shakur Stevenson. So that will be a great fight. Like I said, I believe Shakur Stevenson will beat him. I think Shakur Stevenson is just a much better boxer, better defensively sound. And I just don't think Hector Garcia is ready for somebody like Shakur Stevenson. But like I said, the man won him, so make the fight, because Shakur Stevenson definitely deserved to get undisputed. He said Shakur will get him, but it would be probably Shakur toughest fight. Yeah, that might be Shakur toughest fight because um he don't look like he's not like Oscar Valdez. He's not just coming in there and just coming straight forward. He actually got a little bit of boxing ability to him. So yeah, I can see that being Shakur Stevenson toughest fight to date. But we're gonna see if that fight happens. I want it to happen because Shakur Stevenson deserved that fight, and shoot, that from what we seen last night, that young man deserved to get those big fights. He's proven that he's one of those guys to be reckoned with at 130 pounds. So he deserved those big fights. Um, I saw. I'm gonna talk briefly about Nico Ali Wash. I saw him last night, and I'm not real big on Nico Ali Wash. Like I said, I believe they using the Muhammad Ali name way too much to try to convince everybody this is Muhammad Ali's grandson and all that. They're using that way too much. They're trying to oversell him, but they're not putting him in there with no fights um, that's going to make his career go longevity. This man has been in there. He's being put in there with a bunch of guys that he's supposed to beat. These guys that he's putting them in there with is, even though Nico Ali Wash only got like 5 or 6 fights, you can clearly see he's a bigger guy and he's more of a he's a more, I'm not even gonna say polished fighter. He just better class than these guys that they putting him in there with. These guys they putting him in there with is to make him look good, but they're not giving him no competition to actually make him better. Because once he move up in competition, it's going to be real bad for him. It's going to be real bad. That Garcia would do better than Oscar Valdez. Yeah, I believe Garcia would do better than Oscar Valdez did because Oscar Valdez just comes straight forward. He don't have no head movement or nothing like that. He move his head a little bit, but it's not to the same ideal head movement like Hector Garcia. Hector Garcia is more of a boxer puncher. He's not going to just come straight forward and try to just bogart you. He's a boxer puncher. So yeah, he would definitely. I believe he would definitely do better than Valdez. Um, but yeah, so I just think they just trying to boost Nico Ali Wash up just to try to get some sales off of him, off the name recognition. But I'm not big on him at all. I think he's going to crash soon as he meets some stiff competition. He's going to crash and burn. He leave his chin wide open every time he try to throw a big shot. His chin is wide open. Um, but then I saw the main fight. I saw a couple of other fights, but they wasn't really nothing to really talk about. Oh, and the other guy that won from the Dominican Republic, I cannot think of his name. That was a hell of a fight. That was a good fight. They was throwing body shots back and forth the whole fight, and he became the first 140-pound fighter to win a belt for the Dominican Republic. So both of those guys won for the Dominican Republic last night, and they both won a title. So kudos to those guys. They did something that their countrymen has never did before, and those guys should be congratulated, and they need to be recognized because they did something that a lot of guys from their country tried to do but was never able to do. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Um, but yeah. So the main fight, um, Anthony Joshua and Usyk, Alberto, and yeah, Alberto and Hector. Yeah, they definitely need to be congratulated because, like I said, those guys did something that a lot of their countrymen that came over here in the boxing industry tried to do but was not able to do. Um, So kudos to those guys. But AJ and Odozana, AJ came in there with a nice game plan. The only problem that AJ had was when he was putting the pressure on, he was not throwing any shots. The first, I think it was the first 5 or 6 rounds, AJ was just putting the pressure on, but he wasn't throwing anything. If AJ would have been throwing the body shots that he threw at the end of the fight, if he'd have been throwing those shots from round one, he would have stopped Usyk. He would have stopped Usyk because we can clearly see those body shots was hurting Usyk. He was a couple of times he hit Usyk with a body shot and Usyk bent over like, oh shit, I can't take that. And Usyk got on his bike and ran around the ring. It was like, hold up, let me walk this shit off. AJ, he had the perfect game plan, but he did not let his hands go like the first 5, 6 rounds. He didn't let his hands go. He would have won that fight if he let his hands go. But like I said, shout out to Odozan and Usyk. I knew Usyk was going to win. I just said I had it at a unanimous decision, which it should have been a unanimous decision. I don't know what that judge saw and called it a win for AJ. It was clearly Odozan Usyk won that fight. So I'm glad that the right man won because if he wouldn't have won, that would have been a clear sign of they were just trying to get AJ to bounce back. But Usyk did what he did pretty much in the first fight. The only thing I saw that Usyk didn't do, that Usyk did that he didn't do in the first fight, he was moving a whole lot. I don't know if he was nervous that AJ was going to try to hit him with a big shot, and he was just trying to keep AJ uncomfortable. But he was doing a lot of movement, and both of those guys end up getting gassed in the later rounds. Usyk got a hell of a chin because AJ hit Usyk with 2 big ass shots that would have normally dropped the average fighter down. He would have probably dropped anybody else. If that was anybody else, the shot that AJ hit Usyk with in the I believe it was the 9th and the 11th round that he hit Usyk with, he would have dropped those fighters. But Usyk did not collapse. He stayed on his motherfucking guard and he just got around. It was like every time AJ hit Usyk with something, Usyk would come right back and hit AJ with something else. So Usyk was determined not to lose that damn fight. And then the whole meltdown happened at the end of the fight. AJ left the ring, was arguing with somebody in the crowd, came back to the ring, grabbed the Ring Magazine belt, grabbed the WBA belt, and threw them out the ring, and then grabbed the mic. But before he grabbed the mic, he went to Usyk, and I can hear him say, "How did you beat me? I'm a bigger guy. I'm stronger. I got more heart than you. How did you beat me?" And that was a clear sign of this guy has some problems. That was the 8th round. Yeah, the 8th round. Yeah, I know it was I know it was either the 8th or the 9th. But yeah, that was a clear sign of this man has problems because you could tell he's always been coached up as the bigger guy. Can't nobody stand up with AJ. Can't nobody take AJ punches. And he looking at Usyk as Usyk was too small for the division. There was no reason why Usyk should have been in the ring with him. There was no reason why Usyk should have won the first fight. There was no reason why Usyk should have won this fight. Oh, he said he was arguing with Lomachenko. He was kind of arguing with Lomachenko. Oh, that was Lomachenko. I didn't know who it was. I just know he was arguing with somebody in the audience. The crowd. I didn't know who it was. That was Lomachenko. Okay. Yeah. So AJ he had a meltdown. He literally had a meltdown. And then at the press conference, at the post-fight press conference, he had another meltdown. This man sat there on the podium and started crying. And I was like, you literally crying because you lost the match? No, it's not the end of the world. You lost the match. It's just the guy just a better fighter than you. You cannot box a boxer. You're not a boxer. You are the bigger guy. He's a much better boxer than you. You had the right game plan. You just didn't put that shit together. You see, yeah, that was Loma was trying to give him words of encouragement, and AJ said, "Fuck that," or something weird. Shit, dude, it's too emotional for me. Yeah, but he literally just started crying, and then Eddie Hearn had to take over the daggone press conference and talk or whatever. But I'm like, y'all, Eddie Hearn is delusional because Eddie Hearn said he fought all the bigger competition. He never took an easy route and all this stuff. He fought all of the tough guys. All the guys he fought was the toughest and all this other stuff. He never took the easy route. But I could have sworn there was an opportunity for you to fight Wilder, and you decided to fight Povetkin. So that looked like that was the easy route to me. That wasn't the daggone the toughest route. That was the easy route. You decided to fight Povetkin instead of fighting Wilder. When Wilder gave you the $50 million that you asked for. You asked for $50 million and Wilder sent you the $50 million. He told you to check your email. And you told him you not selling your soul to the devil. So why would you ask for $50 million if you sitting there saying you're not going to sell your soul to the devil? You didn't think Wilder had that type of money. That's what it was. You thought Wilder didn't have that type of money and he wasn't going to give you that type of money. What's going on, PGH? Appreciate you coming through. That's what it was. But Wilder pulled your card and you had to think of something else to say to not make that fight. But this man literally had a meltdown, and I know we've been talking about these people with mental issues and all that, but that is a clear sign. What we saw last night of what he did in the ring and what he did at the press conference, that's a clear sign of possible mental issues, especially from the interview that he had before this motherfucker fight, after he lost the first time. He told about he going back to the days of Rafer Edmonds and all this stuff. You not from those areas. That was before you was born. You don't know none of those guys. You wasn't born in that era. You only 31? Something like that. You wasn't born around that time. So yeah, he got mental issues. He need to get some help because he's one of those fighters that's always been catered to. He never had to face adversity until he fought AJ. He fought Andy Ruiz, and then he came back and beat Andy Ruiz. But he never faced adversity in his life. Everything was pretty much given to him, and so now that he suffered a loss for the second straight time, back-to-back losses to the same guy, the same thing that Wilder did. Wilder suffered back-to-back losses. Wilder was cheated, clearly cheated in his first two fights against Tyson Fury. We didn't see Wilder up there crying. Wilder said he wanted the third fight. Wilder wanted to get back in the ring. And then when Tyson beat him the third time, he took the loss as like a champ. Okay, you beat me. I don't respect you, but you won. Okay, it is what it is. And now Wilder making his ring return. But everybody want to know what's next for AJ. Me personally, I believe what's next for AJ is first he need to go see a psychiatrist. He need to go see a psychiatrist first because he has some issues. Y'all might not believe he got no issues. I believe he got issues. All the interviews that I've seen since he lost to Usyk the first time lets me know this man has issues. And then what I seen last night further lets me know that this man has issues. He needs to go see some professional help, and then he can try to work his way back up. You got Wilder that's back. If you want to make that fight, I know Wilder still want to beat your ass. The fight not going to be as big as it would have been if you would have took the fight the first time. But you got You got a couple of these young guys out there. You can go get in a fight with Herkovich. You can get a fight with Herkovich. You might can get a fight with Dillian White again to try to boost your confidence back up. Um, might try to make a fight with Tyson Fury. I don't know if Tyson Fury is going to take that fight with Usyk, but you can take that fight with Tyson Fury because Tyson Fury tweeted out last night that he's not retired and all this other stuff. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see what Tyson Fury try to do, but there's a couple of fights for him to make. As far as his career ain't over, but his mental is pretty much shot. Unless he takes some time off and seek some professional help and come to reality that the guy was just a better fighter than you, a better boxer. He's never going to get over the fact that he lost to Usyk, and that's going to always mess with his mental. A lot of these guys don't like to state the fact that the guy was just better than you. Everybody takes a loss. Sometimes it's just certain fighters that you can't beat. It's just certain fighters you can't beat. It is what it is. Shit, we just saw that shit plenty of times. Motherfucking Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali, Shane Mosley and Vernon Forrest and Mayorga and Shane Mosley. Them guys could not beat. Shane Mosley couldn't beat Vernon Forrest. Vernon Forrest couldn't beat Mayorga. Mayorga couldn't beat Shane Mosley. So it just is what it is. Certain fighters you just can't beat. It is what it is. You just got to come to reality and just realize, okay, he was the better man. I mean, it is what it is. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and start this shit all over and become a better, stronger fighter next time. You just got to learn from your mistake. But if you could never get over the fact that you lost that fight, you can never learn from your mistakes. Because your mistake, you in your eyes, you felt like you should have won. So you don't feel like you made no mistakes. So it's just crazy when it comes to these fighters. But yeah, that's all I really had on these fights from last night. I mean, it was a lot of good fights last night. It was a lot of fights that was upsetting. I ain't gonna say upsetting because I don't get that emotion because none of these guys are my favorite fighters, so I don't get that emotional over these fights. But it was just a bad look on the individuals. What's going on, Durham DeLuche? It was a bad look on the individuals and that was in those fights. Like the AJ, that was a bad look on AJ because you supposed to be bigger than that. You're supposed to be even if you wanted to cry, you had that whole opportunity in your locker room before you came out to the press conference. And you could have cried in your locker room and got that shit out your system before you sat up there at the podium and started crying. You could have got that shit out your system then. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, these guys just got to learn from their mistakes. If they don't want to feel like they lost, they never going to learn. But yeah, that's all I had on this on these fights from this last night. Like I said, shout out to Alberto and Hector. Kudos to y'all guys. Y'all did something that y'all country been trying to get for a long time, and that's a champion for the Dominican Republic. So they got a champion at 140 pounds. They got a champion at 130 pounds. Like I said, those two guys, more so Hector. Alberto, I don't know how long he's going to hold on to his title because there was a lot of times where I could see where other fighters at that 140-pound division can beat him. But Hector, that 130-pound division, be on notice because that man's coming in there to fight. He's not laying down for nobody. Like I said, he won that fight with Shakur Stevenson. That's going to be a hell of a fight. But even if he don't make it past Shakur Stevenson, all those other 130-pound fighters, they better be on notice because that man is coming to fight. And soon enough, he's going to be at 135 pounds. And so those guys better be on notice as well because That man is coming in to fight. He's not laying down for nobody. Everybody overlooked him and believed that, oh, he was a nobody and all that. And like somebody said earlier in the chat, he was an Olympian. And he said it. He said that last night too. He said those guys that see me in the Olympics, they knew about me. Everybody else didn't know about me, but these fighters that was in the Olympics, they know about me. So yeah, y'all better be on notice because he's coming in there to take whatever you got. If you got a strap, he's coming to take it. So if Shakur Stevenson, which I believe he will be, if Shakur Stevenson take that fight, Shakur Stevenson better bring his A game. Like I said, I believe Shakur Stevenson will bring his A game. I haven't seen him not bring his A game yet. But that's all I have for y'all. I appreciate everybody coming through. It was just a short little live. I just wanted to recap what I saw last night. And I'll be back either later today or tomorrow to talk about the preseason games that happened last night and today, that's going on today. I appreciate everybody coming through. As y'all leave, make sure y'all smash the like button. It's your boy, Boxing Matchups. Peace.